Well, I don't know what to do. These husbands are really depressed. These husbands are like, you don't understand. Not only is the United States and Dubai so barbaric, so sickening, so horrifying that words could never explain it. These husbands just seem to bond with the United States and Dubai and turn weird or gross like it's nothing. Which you can tell they're being altered and just act like they're weird and gross now and everything's nothing. And it's like, it's so scary. And after a while, I was like, okay. And I went to the gods and I told the gods, hey, gods, you guys want to be depressed about everything too. Gods, you want to get depressed because every god that did something bad wants to secretly attack everybody in secret constantly lately because they're not going to get away with it. A bunch of gods are terrified because my worst enemies are very scary. They're now going down at my hands. And so I'm fighting my worst enemies. And I don't want anyone else to be subjected. But my enemies wouldn't give a shit about that. So my enemies try to take swipes at all gods whenever they can. And it's terrifying gods off the charts. And it's like, okay then. Gods, go hang out with the husbands. And be depressed for the day. And just tell me what you want me to do. I can probably try to survive just sitting around one more day. I mean, I'm going to have to struggle and find some dollars somewhere. But I could try to do that tomorrow. What do you guys want to do? Because, you can't try to be in something this bad without having days where you fall apart. Or like, nobody in a war doesn't fall apart in a corner here and there. Everybody has to. They have to have a psychological moment, an emotional moment. You're never going to be in a war and like you just get over it. You're going to fucking sit depressed in a corner for days here and there. You're going to live on tranquilizers and say, I can't take reality. If you had the luxury of doing that in a war. Good time to pray for the poor soldiers and reflect about wars and things to pray about that just remind us that good people care about things. Even in the history and in the past, because if they're a ghost today, what are they going through? So, as we're praying for soldiers throughout time, praying for soldiers because their death might be worse than everybody else's. A death in a war is a horrifying way to go. As we reflect about all these things, what I really would like to go over is that when times really are that bad, you gotta fall apart. That's the point. You can't be alive and not fall apart here and there when times are bad. So, okay. I'm used to going into situations. So I'm used to going into a situation, dying as much as I have to, doing what I have to. I haven't won since I created my children, the gods. I created my children, the gods, and then I died as soon as my son turned on me, which wasn't very long after I barely created children. And I've been dead the whole time. So I'm barely victorious, building all the victory and the tomorrows I want. As I'm getting through winning the last pieces of this thing. So I'm not going to relate as much because I am constant death that finally won and gets to be a happiness in death I've never understood. I really wish I could take a piece of my dead invincible self and turn you husbands into something that just looks glamorous against the United States and Dubai with me, fighting and winning with me. What I want is a husband that's brave enough to walk one with my powers enough to walk right up to me, give me money, and laugh that he's not going to give a shit who threatens what or who shows up, what random strangers, or anything else, and like be able to walk home, dance around at home, and be like, no matter what, I was the husband that always loved and worshiped Bonnie Annika the most. I'm the husband that learned to walk in Bonnie Annika invincibility the best and the most. And now I can just dance around like Bonnie, making any statement, saying any truth, and knowing countries can't make me disappear or do anything about it. You know, it's kind of a fun thrill. It would be a fun thrill to be a husband that could be invincible and powerful enough that you could dance around right next to my car and still show up the next day or 2 days later, because everybody that shows up around me that the United States and Dubai doesn't like disappears. Do they just go home and get told by the United States to never come around me? I don't know. Do they really disappear, or they just understand not to go back? I don't know. But the point is, nobody's victorious. I sit here as an overdone abuse obviousness of 2 countries. But you know they would get rid of me in a heartbeat to make that obviousness against the United States and Dubai disappear. You know they'd get rid of me in a heartbeat to make such serious allegations as murder of God go away, so they could just act like she was crazy and nothing has ever existed. You know they'd do anything to make me disappear and just make the truth disappear, because then they can go back to pretending anything and just killing people in secret until everybody's a dead, altered weirdo, and acting nice towards the ones that don't know until everybody's altered and theirs. Life just is what it is. I'd do anything to find a husband that could walk one with my powers and laugh at the United States and dance right next to the car with me. and receive that glorious glamour of greatness, of being whatever wise man or blah, blah, blah of the times. It would be nice to have something that belongs to me, that is mine, that is the most greatest giant, until a United States and Dubai who can murder over and over until it's sickeningly horrifying. One person means nothing to a husband, and they can just walk by and say, you're going to get what you deserve. God's already won. And I'm just looking for a husband like that. Now, one thing I didn't mention, because I didn't want to be rude and my other husbands are kind of depressed. One thing I didn't go over, because when you have depressed husbands, you don't want to talk about happy, good news while some other husband is sad. But you got to juggle it. The one thing that's very good news, this is very, very, very good news. The ones that I call my hubby wubbies or my lubby wubbies or my hubby lubbies, those are the ones that are mine, all mine until they are dead zombies. They have no soul anymore and didn't want one. They have no identity anymore and didn't want one. There is the golden reality of the perfection of victory within my victory. They are the ones that always loved and worshiped me so much and so badly. They became dead zombies within my death. They didn't want a soul or an identity. So, have you ever, I don't know if you've seen movies, or I don't know how the movies are, but okay. So, I am married to actual real Count Draculas. There are real Count Draculas. So, Jesus is a very, okay, so the reality of a Jesus is a common creation of God's. Now, Jesus is his own spectacular Jesus back when he died on that cross. That was his own, what he did in his own life accomplishment and death. But God's can't keep creating a brand new savior identity thing all the time. So God's make a generic saint necklace, and it actually means tons of saints everywhere. And gods make generic saviors like Jesus's or Mary's. Well, they call my statue Mary, or whatever you would call that sister equivalent of a Jesus. Those are typical savior type looks that gods choose or make somebody chosen, and they always have that kind of look, or the gods transform them into a look like that. And it's like a religious, see what people would expect to see kind of look. Then you have things like what I'm going to try to explain. So I have marriages to Count Dracula husbands. They are like the scariest godfather. The scariest, most powerful, weird godfather type motherfuckers of vampires and vampire areas and family lines and realities. The ones I marry tend to be very family and ancestry and legacy oriented. They're the good Count Draculas. There's very bad ones, and they're just gross. Well, these good Count Draculas, when you marry like a godfather or a monumental scary father of scary things like vampires, and you wouldn't even want to know one exists, but I guarantee once they bit you, you'd find the sexual thrill and always wish you could meet one. So I'll just tell you the inside track in case you want to get jiggy with a vampire. Just gonna put it out there. Yeah, but the Count Draculas or the Godfather ones are actually very, 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 very scary. But when a little vampires are just cutesy and little. When they bite you in areas of excessive sexual thrill if they like you. If they don't like you, they're biting you to break you or hurt you. So you don't want those ones. You want the ones that are biting you for fun and cutesy and they like you. Because like they can bite and it creates sexual fun or thrill. And back in the old days, vampires used to come down to this planet and women would get so excited hoping they get picked. I'll throw that out there too. Yeah, but so these Count Draculas are very, very old and commanding, and usually part of a very royal family line. In our homes, it's very common that our butlers, our maids, our servants, our devoted of the house are dead, have no soul, have no identity, and completely belong to us as property. So in the world of a Count Dracula, he could talk to you on and on forever about how the house is full of his property. They have no soul, they have no identity, therefore they have no existence. They just belong to Count Dracula, and they don't have anything else. And it's completely legal because they wanted it that way. You know, some people can be the maid of somebody forever. Some people can be like a TV show of a butler off a TV show. They can live like that forever because they love their job. They're so happy and they don't want to leave. You know when you have a job that's so fun and so easy, it's like you never go to work. Speaking of a job I'm trying to find. But you know when you get up and you go to work and it's like you never went to work a day in your life because your job was just so happy. Speaking of trying to be a dead god, finding a job where being a dead god is a plus and not a negative, and just makes my job that much more successful, and the company that much more successful, and everybody wins or something. But you know what I'm saying, like, you are the work and dedication you are, or you are whatever you put in and become. But in some cases like this, you become their property, their possession, what they want, what they build. So sometimes you could be a butler and say, I am so happy to be your butler for 30 years. I'd totally just belong to you to take care of me forever. Kind of like that kind of a concept. When you get to be a Count Dracula or these big giants, you can own souls and they can belong to you. Therefore, they don't have freedom of choice. So they can't make choices. Therefore, they could never fuck up. and end up getting murder altered by the United States or something. So see, the good news in this, but I don't want to make the husbands depressed. The good news in this is the beauty of the fact that the husbands and more that are my property are finally claimed in their bionics by me. Those husbands have no freedom of choice. They have no identity. So they are not part of the battle, of the fight of good and bad, and the constant struggle and fight of good against bad. So the United States and Dubai get husbands to do something bad or wrong. Then they're open season. You can murder, alter them like everything, anybody, and act like God ain't nothing. When a husband is completely my property, he never makes an answer. He has no freedom of choice. He has no life of his own to have to make choices to prove whether he's good or bad. He's just dead property of a dead God. So he has no obligation to be in this fight of good and bad. Those husbands are going to walk up and give me money, give me anything. If they own businesses, do business with me. Those husbands will walk up in here and everyone will know there's nothing they can do. They are just like an extension of Bunny Anakinus. So whatever I am in my powerful self is what they are in their powerful self. Without the last few things I need to do to win, because they weren't in this battle. So they're like my omnipresence that can do anything over on Frank Sinatra community. So the way I can do anything over in that Frank Sinatra community area, as if I'm so free and stuff, but like none of it can come here because this was in the battle, and this connection of me is not completely free all the way to the end yet. But like I seem so free at the Frank Sinatra area, the husbands that are zombified like that and are my property and have no soul or identity anymore, they can live like the Frank Sinatra thing before I'm actually free all the way through here. So they can just walk around, do anything with or to me. They can run around, do anything, anywhere, and nobody will ever care. And it will never matter. Nothing ever will. And that's the joyous moment that you get to in life, is that some things with my victory just cannot be stopped or changed. Because the reality is that I, as a dead God, must win. I already got the crown. I already earned the victory, and they just wouldn't honor it. So as I get my powers up to destroy and kill forever, to have that red carpet I should have had just because they should have done it, I was going to win everything. It was inevitable. But this is the fun. The dead zombified husbands, and dead zombified devotionals, and dead zombified I just want to belong to hers. The ones who always loved and worshipped me and knew me the most, until they drowned in the ownership rights of me owning them, are going to realize today they are the most glamorous, invincible fucking things ever known. Now, the first thing that's going to happen, the United States and Dubai are going to try to be their best friends and figure out how they're going to get away with this. And the United States and Dubai are going to try to be their best friends and figure out how to control them so they just won't do anything good in Bonnie's direction. So she, fuck you, has to murder everybody and win by killing souls all by herself. And looks degraded until the last second. So the United States and Dubai are going to do anything and everything to get their hands on these legendary husbands and people that literally are just my property. And just make sure they can't do anything good in my direction until they're dead and gone as countries anyway, and don't have to live in the humiliation of the dead God becoming something in front of everybody. The biggest fear of the United States and Dubai is that I'll finally be the dead God powerful giant in front of all that I always was. The United States and Dubai only have the oppression and poverty and sickening things they can inflict into my death and existence in front of everybody till they're dead and gone, and have to live in the constant song of their death spewing what they've done to me. So all they have is the illusion of all these illusions. They're going to give everything and anything to get my dead zombie husbands and do whatever they want. And sadly, it's going to be the scariest, saddest thing ever known. But they won't know until they're fucked, and it's too late. And I'd like to tell a story about my grandma. So I had to pretend to be the daughter of the great god Dingo. And yes, it's not a coincidence that his name was Great God Dingo. It's not a coincidence. You guys might want to my queen find out, but that wasn't the story I was going to tell. So, Grandma, which is mommy creator of the Great God Daddy Dingo, which is my daddy. I had to pretend to be his daddy. I had to pretend to be hhis daughter, and he was pretending to be my daddy, so I could win the victory, or try to win this whole victory once and for all. I got really close to my grandma, and like a daddy's girl or something, I kind of became like the granddaughter that was like a daddy's girl equivalent to a grandma. And my grandma got tired of this one bastard picking on me. There was this one evil god enemy that just loved to pick on me. So Grandma taught me, you don't fight with him. Don't fight with him. Don't say shit. Don't get to where you want to say fuck you. Make him a nice cup of tea. And explain that goodness always wins. And that fighting is never the answer. So I did it. And he kept treating me like shit. So then Grandma said, we'll offer him some candy and a nice beer and tell him that goodness is always the way, the truth, and the life. And once we don't have goodness, and once we cannot believe that good will always win, we have nothing. So I did it. What she didn't tell me to tell anybody is that the tea was pure death, curses, voodoo in a bad way, and more. And so is the beer and more. Then she taught me that as my enemy was dying, the worst deaths ever known, you walk up to him and say, see, good always wins. But it's because good will become whatever it takes to win. In the name of good. You were hurting me and had no right to. Now I am the greatest victory of the story of good.